Welcome to Mile High Hoops. We're going to be starting a new channel. We're going to start with talking about Western Conference NBA teams, and we're going to be predicting kind of the way the season's going to go for each team this year. We're going to be starting with the Denver Nuggets. Hopefully, we'll finish this before the season starts. So, like, subscribe, share it to your grandma, whoever likes NBA, maybe your mom. She might enjoy my voice, but buckle up and enjoy. So the Nuggets won 48 games last season without Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. With those guys being back, they're going to be back to them old selves. Uh, that's just playing crazy good basketball offensively. Jamal Murray, Jokic pick and rolls. Jamal just isolating, cooking up top. Uh, MPJ catching wing threes and catching shooting them. So they're going to be back to being like a top end contender level team. Um, and other than that, they made some trades. They traded JaMychal Green to the Thunder uh, and some conditional 2027 first round pick. And that was just to the draft rights for some Peyton Watson. And he had a terrible summer league. I mean, he averaged like 8 points for the whole 5 games in Las Vegas. And he shot 11.8% from three. So we'll see if that works out for them. He's 6'8", seems like a long, tall, good 20-year-old. I mean, we'll see if he can be a defender or something for them. The Nuggets also traded Will Barton and Monte Morris to the Wizards for KCP and Ish Smith. I think this is a pretty good move just for the fact of KCP. KCP is a good 3-and-D wing. That's what they need. Will Barton was probably as good, if not better, of a scorer. I mean, from three levels, but not as good of a shooter. Definitely not as good of a defender. Monte Morris was definitely a good scorer, but defense was just a complete liability out there. I think overall, like they're losing some offensively, but like also gaining some in a different fashion offensively, as far as like Jokic having more targets to throw to out at the 3 point line. And then also defensively, they're taking a massive step up as far as wing defense. So I think this is a good move. Morris still had 3 years or 2 years of his $27 million deal left. So some contract flexibility. They could maybe move other pieces later at the deadline, but all in all, that should definitely help them. Now, the other big names that they got were Bruce Brown Jr. and DeAndre Jordan. Bruce Brown, I think, is a great addition. I mean, he should fit right in. He's just such a hustler. He gets almost every rebound somehow as being such a short guy. I think he'll fit perfect because Jokic is usually going to be at the high post, the top of the three, and Bruce Brown's going to be cutting, standing in dunker spot, ready to catch the ball from Jokic at any point in time. He can shoot the three decently, so I think he's just going to be a great addition for them. Andre Jordan, massive step back from having DeMarcus Cousins on their bench. Against the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs, DeMarcus Cousins seemed like he was kind of helpful out there. Like he was actually a positive when he was on the court. He was catching it and actually like scoring on Looney pretty well, which Looney was clamping pretty much everybody other than Jokic, of course. I mean, he put up a good fight, but as far as DeAndre Jordan goes, I mean, he's like a decent help defender at this point still. Like he'll still come block a couple shots maybe and get a couple rebounds. But offensively, he's like entirely useless. He can go around and set some screens, maybe roll to the basket and catch it and get a dunk if he's wide open. If he has to put the ball on the floor in the middle of the key, he's probably going to turn it over. He doesn't have any post moves at this point. He can't shoot outside of underneath the hoop. So I think he's going to be a massive step back from DeMarcus, but still better than nothing. The other rookie that they signed that was interesting to me was Colin Gillespie out of Villanova. I mean, he played great for them in the playoffs this last season for college basketball. He's just kind of been that steady, solid rock for Villanova, just generaling the court, you know. But he did like fracture his leg, and he's had to get surgery, and so the Nuggets have him on a two-way, and we'll see if he can come back at some point. I think he'd be a good and interesting backup point for them. And now on to some of their other main players that are going to be playing 15, 20 minutes, maybe a little bit more, like Aaron Gordon. But first with Bones Highland, he played a pretty big role against the Warriors in the playoffs this last season, mostly out of necessity, but he actually filled the role pretty well and wasn't a complete slouch, especially for being a 21, 20-year-old rookie at that point. But he was putting up about 10 points a game, 40% from the field, not super great, but 36% threes. Great free throw shooter at 85.6%. He's definitely not going to have as big of a role this year, but as a guy coming off the bench, he's going to fit in perfectly and continue to get better. He's definitely one of those guys that's just got a lot of fight in him, and he's going to continue to improve. He'll be a great player for them. And on to Aaron Gordon. I think this might be a hot take to a lot of people, but I think Aaron Gordon sucks. Uh, During the regular season, I think he's all right, and it really went to show when he needed to step up in the playoffs and have a bigger role than just kind of fitting in. He really crumbled. He was a traffic cone on defense for Steph Curry whenever he got switched onto him, and I mean he can't shoot the three well enough. He can defend most players, but like anybody quick, he was getting blown by. And I mean, he's supposed to be this big switchable defensive wing that can catch lobs and run in transition and kind of shoot some open threes. I think he's just not good enough for this team. Um, and my hot take is that they should trade him for Kevin Love. And I think if they want to be better, getting a guy like Kevin Love that can just shoot, pass the ball, go down low a little bit with Jokic, I think he would just propel them up a step, especially if they're wanting to win right now. And if they traded for Kevin Love, I mean, he's got 1 year left. They could re-sign him on a cheap deal or just let him walk at that point, and then they've got some of that cap space back. And it just it's tough with Aaron Gordon. I watched him all through high school. I was a big fan of his. I mean, he was a big athletic guy that was just dunking all over everybody. But then he got in the NBA and he's really not gotten much better. I feel like he's kind of like the Andrew Wiggins of the Magic and the Nuggets, just not really improving as much as you like, especially when you've got all those physical tools. Maybe he needs a new environment like Andrew Wiggins that he can blossom in, and I don't think the Nuggets is the place for him. Maybe if he went to the Cavaliers, he could fit in as their like wing defender guy, but it's not working out. And I put a trade up on screen, by the way. Um, you could put in picks as you'd like on here. I feel like the Cavaliers would need to add something here. Um, but either way, I think they need to move him. Just get someone that can fit a little bit better, that doesn't need to be a super great defender. Because I mean, I was bashing Aaron's defense a little bit, but I think I'd rather just have a guy that can fully capitalize on how good of an offensive talent they have, and there's really not one player out there that could fit in and maximize their defense. and raise their ceiling offensively. I mean, guys that would do that are like Jaren Jackson Jr. or like a Tatum that they can fit at the four, and you can't just go trade for those guys. So um, that's enough on Aaron Gordon, but just please move him at the deadline. All right, and to wrap things up, I think the Nuggets will win more than that 48 games that they had last year, but not too many more. The Western Conference is loaded at this point. I mean, the Clippers should be back. The Warriors are still good. The Lakers should be okay. We'll definitely bash them in their preview video, but there's just a ton of good, talented teams, especially, well, I mean, in both conferences. So they're going to be playing a lot of top end talent, and so I think there's not going to be that 60 win team. So I think 50 is a good spot. They're going to be like 1 through 4 in seeding. So we'll see. For a final sidebar here, thanks for listening this far. This is my first time recording my voice and making YouTube videos. So, I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things to iron out and get better at. But please let me know in the comments if you liked it, what you didn't like, if there's places I can do better. I'm noticing I do say a lot. But let me know. I appreciate you making it this far, and I want to keep doing this. I think it'd be fun. So let me know, and please hit the like button and hang out for the next ones.